And it does let you know in the chat too. So, but I'm here to help you, and I'm excited. I've used Microsoft Teams for the past 3 years in my own classroom. So I've used it in a lot of different ways, and tonight we'll show you a couple different features to keep your students engaged, especially since you have elementary school students, and also using some different features. So.
Great, thanks, Shane. And I'm Amanda Lattimore. I'm a computer science resource teacher for Baltimore County Public Schools. So yeah, we're just here to help you guys, and we use Microsoft Teams for all of our like office-based meetings and staff meetings and whatnot ever since we went online. So we're going to kind of start with just some norms. You could use these with your students if you want. So a couple things like showing your video. So it looks like Shane and I are the only ones showing our video, which is fine. And we know I was in a high school class yesterday morning and only 2 kids, they would pop in and out, but that was about it. And it does help with bandwidth. So depending on where you are in your county and how things are going with internet, if students do mute their video, it definitely helps with bandwidth, but it's nice to see the little ones, and hopefully they show their videos a little bit more than the older students. Obviously muting yourself, everybody was muted when you came in, so if you need to talk, that's certainly fine. But during a presentation, use the chat. One of us will always be monitoring the chat. I know in your own classrooms, you don't always have, a co-facilitator or whatnot, but it is nice if you have, like a special educator or paraeducator, somebody that's in that can help monitor the chat when you're sharing your screen. And then just some engagement norms. So be present. Not that I can see if you're on your phone, if I can't see your video, but just try to keep up with the presentation. It's only an hour, it'll fly by. We promise to start and end on time. The past couple meetings have gone over about 10-15 minutes, but if you're asking good questions, we're here to help. And then monitor airtime. So don't hog all the questions. Everybody should get their own time. And then we're embrace it. It is what it is. We're all home. We're home now for the rest of the year. We just heard that, obviously. So we'll figure it out. We're all in here together, and we're all here to help each other out. So then agenda, Shane's going to walk you through some messages and announcements to make your pages look a little bit prettier. I'm going to talk about the Insights app, and then Shane's going to talk about One Class Notebook, and then we'll save some time for Q&A.
All right, so that means we're going to jump over to me. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to real quick stop sharing for 1 second just so I can share. I'm going to share on this screen just to make it a little bit. I have like 3 monitors, so it makes it a little crazy running around. Okay, so what I've done is I have a practice team set up, and it's just a practice classroom that I made myself. That it doesn't have any students in it. But it's just something that I could play around with in practicing making discussion posts and different things to get familiar with Teams. So what I've done is I just wanted to show you some ways to make your announcements and like discussion posts and different things with your students, make them more engaging and kind of grab their attention a little bit better, and just to be able to start that conversation. And Amanda can feel free to interrupt me at any time if there are any particular questions of where I'm at, and or if you guys want me to show you how I did something again, please type in the chat, and Amanda can just jump in and tell me, and I'd be happy to show again. So usually by default, when you have you're in your classroom, you have one channel set up here on the left side. I'm going to zoom in some that way just for right now to make it a little bit easier for you to see on the screen. So you'll always have this general channel. And you can add more channels just by usually have your class name right here on the left. And then you have these 3 like little ellipses. And if you click on this, you actually get a couple features, and you can actually add another channel. So what I did is I added 2 more channels in this classroom. And I added one specifically called discussion posts because I want to engage my students in some discussion posts, especially with the learning that we're doing, and just make it so that it catches their eye. And then all they have to do is they'll see whatever the discussion post is and maybe what the question is, and then a reply. So I want to show you how to make these real easily because I see a lot of teachers, they often miss them, and they do regular posts and they're not as flashy, and they're harder for the students to see. So down here at the bottom, when you start a new conversation, there's this little icon on the far left side called Format. And what's really nice is Format actually, if you click on it, it actually brings up the window so you have a lot more features to create your messages. So I want to make an announcement. I want to make it look really nice and flashy. So instead of a conversation, what I need to do is this right here in the top left corner, I zoomed in again a little bit more. There's a little drop-down menu here, and if you click on the drop-down, it actually changes from new conversation. You can change it to announcement. So you'll notice right away that some things changed. So I can go ahead and fill out my discussion, and just to make it easy, I'm numbering them. And on this one can be all about the Earth. I'm just making some kind of sample discussion post with you. I know that at the elementary school level, you're teaching all kinds of things at all different times, depending on the subject. So I have what I want to write in the title to kind of grab my students' attention for this discussion post. You got two different features over here. I can change the color scheme. So it's really limited on the amount of colors right now. I know Microsoft Teams is supposed to add some more colors. So maybe we'll do like an earthy brown color. But I can also add a background image. So the icon here on the right, I can select from two different features. Teams has a bunch of ones already in it, or I can upload my own background image. So for this one, I'm just going to show you some of the different ones that they have. So they've got some under general, some under classes, and then they have clubs, activities, and sports. So depending on your color scheme and all of that, it can look differently. So I'm going to go ahead with this one here. And it actually took my brown background away. So, but that's okay. So there's two different ways that you can do it. So I'm going to go ahead and in the subheading, I'm going to go ahead and write my question for the student. So what is your favorite fact about our Earth? And then you could have you could have your announcement in, or you could not use the subheading at all, and I could just put it right in here. So whenever you're ready, and you finish your discussion post, now you could do a lot more. You could do highlighting. I could insert in a YouTube video. I could insert in some links. Maybe I want the students to go and click on a link and then come back and reply to the discussion post. I could drag in files if I wanted to. So maybe you have a PowerPoint or a Word document on your desktop or in your OneDrive, and you could just drag it in. You can do that. You can add the attachments. I've seen teachers have the students insert in a GIF or a meme of how they're feeling that day. So if you have that enabled, the kids can just go ahead and insert in a GIF. So there's a lot of different things you can do in it. You can have a form. You can insert in your stream videos, a lot of things. So whenever you're finished making your discussion posts, you just go ahead and you click on the send icon. And you're going to see that it gets published into whatever channel that you are working in. So, and another thing you'll notice is it looks a little bit different. So it's going to have this little announcement icon to the right of it. The students will just easily just click reply so that they can reply right to your discussion post. So the major difference, if you look at how this announcement was set up, and if you look at something like this was just a regular channel conversation that I made the other day. So it doesn't really grab the students' attention. So I just want to make it something a little bit more appealing with your students. All right, so do you have any questions about announcements, Amanda?
Not yet, no. And we had several people who joined, so I reposted the login link for people for attendance.
Perfect.
So welcome, everybody.
All right. Well, I'm going to hand it off to Amanda. She's going to talk about the Insight app. And Amanda, hopefully we can try to see if your screen shares again.
Yo, I'm going to request control. So let's see what happens. So that just took it away from you, but that doesn't give me control over the PowerPoint.
I stopped sharing. So you want me to?
Oh, my bad.
Let me go back into my team. So
I just don't think it liked the PowerPoint.
Well then, yeah, just try to share your screen then. So just I'm gonna stop sharing so that you can share. Okay. We had some technical difficulties earlier with, for some reason, it was not showing hers.
All right, let's see.
Yep, it works. You're good.
Okay, we're good.
Yep, I can see. We can see your screen.
All right, let me go back and then I'll present. All right, well, yeah, then just keep an eye on chat for me if you don't mind.
Sounds good.
So yeah, so the next thing we're going to look at is an app that's inside of Microsoft Teams called Insights that allows you to see data about your students and their activity in your class. This does not show on the student side, so you don't have to worry about them, bullying each other. Oh, like Marcia hasn't logged in 3 days, but I logged in and did my work. So just when you create it, and I'm going to walk you through it in your own class to go through and add this to your class, but you'll see different activities across the top. You'll see the bars down the bottom. I know the little bars, Shane had said before, like if you only log in for a second, like you can tell how long a kid was actually active. So if they're like, oh yeah, I spent 3 hours yesterday working on this assignment, I don't know why you didn't get it. You log in, you're like, oh, looks like Eldon did not spend 3 hours yesterday. So it just gives you a little bit more information, especially in this digital time when, kind of take people's word with things, but it helps us as teachers a little bit. So that's kind of just the general look of the app. So when you go in, you have digital activity or average grade. So that's for all the assignments, or you can filter it. On time assignment. So you can tell, as a class, if students are turning things in online. And then the time for feedback is you. So that's how much time it took you to give feedback on an assignment. So you can kind of, gauge yourself. And then communication activity is the student's activity on posts and whatnot. So each of the consecutive slides is going to go into a little bit more detail. What's nice is you can filter all this data. When you log in, you can look at all of the students, or you can switch it to just an individual student, or you can look at the time period. So if you have to do progress reports and it's only based on the last, couple weeks of work, so maybe you do 30 days, or if you just want to look at the last week and see who logged in, then you could just do 1 day. Are you talking, Shane?
No, can you minimize that video? There's a little in the top right corner, that tiny little video. No, on the you have the Office 365, like our video. Yeah, to the right of that. Yeah, there's a little minimize button in the top right, but there you go.
That? Yeah, okay.
It was covering part of your screen, so it was hard.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Yeah, like I said, I don't usually show the whole screen.
No worries.
Okay, so the digital activity tile is showing, that particular team's activity over time. So, how long have they spent? So they kind of drill down to this one student, says, they posted 3 messages, they reacted to 4 messages, which kind of helps save you, I know, as a teacher, especially because a lot of our stuff now is pass fail. So if you just see like, oh, hey, this kid went in, at least I know that they were active. You can always go and read their messages, make sure they were appropriate, but just kind of gives you that overview of, have they been online? Have they been doing stuff? You can see the exclamation point here. It says 3 out of 36 students were not active. So like maybe Jacob needs a phone call to figure out, what's been going on and why he hasn't been active. So then average grade, so the calculated average grade from all the assignments, and you can look at just a particular student versus your whole class. So you can see they kind of opened up, looks like Christine, I'm gonna need glasses one of these days. Her grade versus the rest of the grades, you can see down here, she's the orange versus the class average. So you can kind of take a look and see, how is a particular student doing compared to the class average, just to give you some more data. And then here's your on-time assignments. I would love to see a class that looks like that with 96% on-time assignments. We probably aren't going to see that high of a percentage at the moment. But you can see which ones were late, which ones were on time. And again, you could look for one student versus all students. And then average time for feedback, again, this is you. So this is how long did it take you to provide feedback for that assignment. So, on September 22nd, looks like, it took about 2.5 days for you to provide feedback. So just to kind of give yourself a heads up. I mean, nobody else can see this, so nobody's going to be getting you in trouble for, if you take 3 or 4 days to do feedback, especially any of your English assignments. I'm a math and computer science person, so I can't imagine grading essays. And then communication activity is nice. And this is all the students. So this is not any of your activity, like you responding to their posts or anything like that. It's just them actually making the post. How much time have they spent online actually, doing the activities? I know, I guess elementary school kids cheat. I've only ever taught middle and high school, but I've used several pieces of software where I can tell how long a student spent on an activity. And if you spend 30 seconds on a computer science program, that probably means that you just found it somewhere else and copy and pasted it. So just to give you an idea of how much time the students are spending. I know Shane had said, he was going to kind of look at one of his classes just to give you another, overall idea of how long the students are spending on their communication type things, not necessarily just being in the system and being logged in.
I was going to add to that, Amanda.
Yep.
Go back real quick. This is nice too because later in the class, if you have 10 or 11 discussion posts you've made, you can kind of see which students have been more interactive. So if you have students that are not only just replying to the prompt, but also replying to their students' replies too. So I know in my own class, we do a lot of feedback. And so kids will share their projects and then they'll get feedback from students. So it can be a nice way to see like, well, I noticed that this student's only replying to one person typically when doing feedback versus another student that might be replying and giving like 7 or 8 different students feedback. So it's just another way of kind of just seeing who's actually involved in the communication online.
Yeah, that's great. And they're not just chit-chatting back and forth with one of their friends and it looks like they're doing the schoolwork. All right, so I'm going to jump out of here and actually show you how to do this for yourself in Teams. So if you all want to follow along and add this app to your Teams as we go. So I'll give you a second, make sure that everybody's back. I'm assuming I'm not sharing my Google Docs anymore, right, Shane? All right, so I'm going to go to my Teams. And I created a practice team. I teach for e-learning also, but my students aren't rostered in Microsoft Teams. So I just made a practice team. And what you're going to need to do is Insights is not one of the automatic tabs across the top, so you're going to have to add it.
And remember, Amanda, or if you guys want to, if you want to follow along with Amanda and make her video really small so that you're in your own Teams, do you want to show them how to do that, Amanda, real quick? Kind of what you did when they click Teams on the left side.
I assumed that it would already make me small. It didn't.
No, you're fine. I'm talking about the participants so that they
Yeah, no. Yeah, I mean, no, I don't know. Like when I click on something else, it usually minimizes the video for me.
Yeah, they would have to click on their Teams on the left. So like if you click on your Teams icon on the left, and if you want
Oh, yeah, okay. That's what I thought you meant. Right. So so if you all wanted to do this as I'm doing it, right, yeah, click on your Teams as well. Because we wanted to give you all a couple minutes to kind of look and see what it looks like for one of your classes. Yeah, so all I did was I clicked on Teams. I chose the team I wanted to work with first. So I chose my practice team. I went to the plus sign up here because Insights is not one of the original tabs. You can either search for it or obviously it's right here in the middle for me. So I'm going to click on Insights. And then just gives you all the options. You can just click Add. And this is the part that's important because students don't see this, and it actually tells you that right in the middle. Since students don't have access to Class Insights, uncheck the option to post to the channel about the tab because they don't need to know about any of your activity in Insights because they don't have Insights. So I unclicked it. I'm going to click Save. And now I have the main screen that I pretty much just showed you and walked through. You can see here's your all time versus 30 days, 7 days, a specific day. So it looks like mine started April 7th. I can drill down if I had students, I could choose a different student in here and see just their particular information. So if you want to take a minute, add this to one of your classes, see some data, and then ask some questions. We'll take a couple minutes for some questions and then Shane will move on to the next section.
Yeah, so Dennis, that drop down, I also just posted in the chat, but the drop down right there where it says all students. So typically you would see all of your students in there, but just like for Amanda and I, we don't have any students in these practice ones. So you could, if you're in your own Insights app right now in a particular classroom, you'd be able to click on a particular kid. And I didn't have any other questions in there, Amanda.
Okay. All right, great. I know the only other thing I think like we had talked about like exporting to Excel, and I don't, unfortunately without kids, I don't know what that looks like and what type of data I would get, but I'm assuming, you just get a CSV file with a whole bunch of stuff and you got to kind of clean it up.
Yeah. And there's that nice refresh button too. So if it doesn't for some reason load, we're like across from all activities. There's one actually down like lower too, Amanda, that refresh.
Oh, I see it. Oh, cool. Okay, yep.
Yeah, so you can refresh
chart.
with. So like if you're so the really nice thing is if you want to actively monitor something, like maybe you're doing an activity one day and all the kids are, if this was in person or even just for the day, you want the kids to log in at a particular time and work on something, you can hit that just quick refresh and it will update quickly just to see who's actually actively involved in a conversation or discussion post and so on.
Cool. Well, yeah, if there's no other questions, I'm going to jump out so Shane can do his portion, then we can have some time for Q&A.
All right. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and we're going to talk particularly about the class notebook. So I've created a practice team, and I'm going to start you guys from scratch with class notebook. So if you look up here on my screen at the very top, every class that you have now, if you're an elementary school teacher and you only have one class of students, you would only have to do this for one class. But if maybe you're special education, maybe you're an art teacher, PE teacher, where you have multiple classes, you actually have access to this class notebook, and you'll have a different class notebook for each of your classes. So what class notebook really is it's a virtual collaborative space for students. Now, each student's going to get a private space to take notes. There's also a space where you can post things where students can be collaborative and they can reply inside of it. And also there's a place where you could store files if you wanted to as well. We're not going to particularly talk much about that today, but we're going to talk about the collaboration space and how students can use it for virtual note taking. So I'm actually going to set this one up, and if you want to follow along and you want to set up your notebook at the same time, you're welcome to. Just if you click on Teams over on the left side, then you can select whatever classroom that you want to set up. So the first thing I'm going to do is I clicked on the class notebook tab, and I'm going to click this button here. It says set up a OneNote class notebook. And once this is set up for this class, it's set up forever. So it's going to be always there for your students. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select blank notebook. So you're given two options when you click on that. Now, say you're a PE teacher or an art teacher and you teach the same class, but you teach it 3 or 4 times a day. Once you set up one notebook, how you want it to be set up, you could import the settings from one of the other notebooks of the same content, and you could bring it over into this other one. You also could do it like next year. So if you set this notebook up, you really like how close the class notebook is, you could then copy over your content from one notebook to the next and so on. So that's really nice. So for this, I'm just going to click blank notebook, and you're going to be prompted with this screen, and it tells you specifically these are the 3 things, or the 3 sections that get added to your notebook. So you have the collaboration space. So this is where team notes are stored for everyone to see. So now the thing with the collaboration space is, as a teacher, I can make pages and such, but the students can edit any of the content on there. And I'll show you how that looks today. You also have a content library. So think of this as like a virtual filing cabinet. So if you wanted to in the future, I know we've only got, a little bit over a month of school left, but in the future, if you wanted to go completely virtual with your classes and have a place where kids could always access old files, presentations, website links, all of that, you could build up your content library. Students only have view access to your content library, so teachers can edit and access. So I actually have all my classes are set up in my content library, so students can go back, especially when they're studying for a final at the end of the year, because since I teach high school, they can go back to any of the old units and look at my old presentations and notes and things like that. And then each student has their own notebook. This is a private space for students. Now, as a teacher, you can see every student's notebook, but students cannot see each other's notebooks. So it's just like if they had a journal that they kept in their backpack. Instead of that, now they have a virtual one that they always have access to, which is really nice. So I have students that have used their notebooks for the past 4 years. So they have all of their stuff saved virtually, which is really good. So you can actually edit things inside of a student's private notebook. and students can edit their own stuff, but they can't see other students' private notebooks. So this could be a place that you give some feedback in. Maybe a student is taking some notes. You're teaching them some note-taking skills, and you might jump into their notebook and kind of give them some feedback on how they're taking notes. Or you might provide something individual to a student. Maybe you're giving a student a graphic organizer to help brainstorming and so on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and hit next, and I'm going to set this up. And what's really nice is you can create sections inside of your students' private space right away, so that they have different sections, and you can help them with organization and kind of keeping things in different, in appropriate different places. So I could delete these, I could add different ones, and so on. So for right now, I'm just going to keep the default handouts, class notes, homework, and quizzes. I don't necessarily use homework or quizzes because I push out all of their homework, all of their quizzes through the assignments tab. So I don't actually push out assignments in there. You could if you wanted to, but we're not going to talk about that today because there's a lot that's involved with that. But I usually just suggest that all homework, quizzes, assignments should be pushed through the assignments tab. So I'm going to go ahead and hit create. Now, usually it can take anywhere from like 30 seconds to like 5 minutes for the notebook to create. It's been a lot faster lately. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to wait till it pops up. Amanda, does anyone have any questions right now about class notebook?
No, not yet.
Okay, so it's already done. So it took less than 30 seconds. So you're going to see it kind of looks familiar. There's a lot of features that are just like Microsoft Word or Microsoft PowerPoint. So the first thing that happens every time a student or you log into Class Notebook is it kind of opens up and it just gives a little bit of it just explains out kind of some of the things I've explained already of, hey, this is Class Notebook. This is how the notebook is organized and how to kind of make the best out of using your notebook. So you can also go to like a different site and open up features and there's FAQ and things like that. So up here in the top left corner is a navigation panel. So remember, this is like a virtual notebook. So when you click on that navigation panel, you're given you got these little like tabs. And if we think about like a 3-ring binder that you would have in the classroom, or maybe how you've stored lesson plans and notes and things like that in the past, this is kind of the same way that it's set up. So think about these tabs here as like the dividers. So I've got a welcome tab, and inside of the welcome tab, I have pages. So I've got this initial one, the welcome page, and when you click over here on the right, it automatically closes the navigation panel. That way just gives you a little bit more space to kind of read, especially if you have like a bigger document or image. So I got to click on that again. So I have another page inside the welcome tab, and this one has some direct links to some more professional development and just a couple like troubleshooting things and different things that you can do with it. So this welcome tab, you can delete it if you don't want the kids to have it. All you got to do is right click and delete the section, and then it deletes it for every kid. So you won't see it anymore. Your kids won't see it anymore. So I usually keep it for the first couple weeks of a brand new school year, and then I get rid of it because it's not really needed. So by default, you have these 3 sections in here. So here's our collaboration space. We have our collaboration space, which we're going to talk about in a minute. You also have your content library, where you can upload files for students to have and where they only have view access to. Now, there is another one which you don't see on mine because I don't have any students populated right now. So what I want to show you is I'm going to bring an image over, just kind of like a screenshot of what it would look like with your students actually logged in. So I went ahead and I kind of just brought an image up. So I just wanted to kind of talk about it over here on the left. These are fake people, by the way, so they're not real students. But we've already seen the welcome tab, the collaboration space, and the content library, which we'll talk more about those in a second. But you're also going to have your students. So you'll be able to see every single one of your students in the class notebook. So depending on what sections you gave them, by default, they're going to have, each student will have these 5 sections inside of their own personal space. Now, students can add more sections. They can also add pages as well in each of the sections. So if we look right now in this image, it shows that as the teacher, you're looking in their homework section and you're looking at a particular page. And so this teacher actually is pushing out their homework to them this way instead of the assignments tab. And then the teacher is giving them feedback inside of their page. But you can also look at any one of their pages or any one of their sections as well. So students can get some practice with organizing how they want to set up their private space, just like if they had a physical notebook or journal or 3-ring binder in class. So students can actually add to their pages using the plus page button, and then they could add more sections in their private space hitting the plus section button there. So that's what it looks like with your students. So you can click on them at any time. So I'm going to go back into, I switched back over to Microsoft Teams. So I'm in my class notebook. So I want to talk about the collaboration space. So if we look at, if I click on like just this starter help page that's created, so it's just a place where everyone in the class and all members can read or write to anything in this part of the notebook. So teachers and students can create new sections and pages in ways that work best. So I've used this in my classroom for many different ways. I've had where I've created a team 1 page, and then I've created a team 2 page where only those specific team members for those teams use that as a way to gather resources. So maybe they're working on a project and they're going to post some links and some images, just as like a kind of a virtual space for them to be collaborative. So there's a lot of different ways you could do that as well. But if you wanted to kind of be able to monitor what your students and how they're planning out something, you could do it that way. I could do something cool, and so I'm going to create a new page, and maybe we're getting ready to start a new unit, and I want to do a Kwl chart with my students. So you have a lot of features up here at the top. So, and the nice thing is whatever I name my page, it will automatically name the page over here as well. So I could draw, or I could insert shapes or images. So what I'm going to go is I clicked on the draw tab, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw with the marker. So I'm going to go ahead, my handwriting or my drawing skills are not the best. Let me go ahead and I'm going to delete this box there. And I'm going to go ahead and create a KWL chart. And all my students since this is a virtual space, they could actually come in and they could type anywhere on the KWL chart. So it's just a way that you could be collaborative with your kids and do some different things. You can also do math. So you could put in some math problems. You can do a lot. There's a lot of different features that can be used. So let me go ahead and I'll just create another page, and I could insert in, so I can go ahead and, well, let me name it. So first, organizer, I can go ahead and go under picture, so insert picture, and I can insert a picture that I have saved, or I can go on the online and I can type in graphic organizer, and I could just select an image, and it's going to automatically get populated into this virtual space. So maybe I'm creating one of these, and I'll make the picture bigger, and I want the kids to click on the draw tab, and I want them to draw, or I want them to write inside of this graphic organizer. So there's a lot of cool features, a lot of different things that you can do inside of this virtual space. So there are a ton of awesome, if you go on YouTube and you type in just ideas or ways to use Microsoft or the class notebook collaboration space, there's a lot of cool ways that you can use it. So you can also, I'll show you one more thing, is if you want to be a little bit organized, I need to make sure I get out of the draw. So let me go back to writing. If I wanted to, maybe I want to do discussion posts inside of class notebook instead of creating channels in my teams. I might have discussion post number 1, and I might post a question here and say, I'm just going to do, what is your favorite color? Just something random, but I might pose a question for my students, and I'll just let them post. They can reply anywhere on the page, and then maybe have them reply to each other as well. So you can make it now. It might be a little bit chaotic because kids are going to type in all kinds of different places. So to make it a little bit simpler, you could like add a table. So maybe you have a table and you have your kids respond in the table. So you could do that as well. So there's a lot of different things that you could, and it's just thinking about, especially in this virtual time, the students, you know, I've had a lot of students express to me that they feel lonely, they feel like they haven't been able to talk to their friends. You know, finding ways that you can be collaborative with the kids and they can share with each other and see what their classmates are sharing can be a very powerful tool. So that is the collaboration space. There's a lot of stuff that you could totally do with it. So content library, not going to really talk much about. Just know that like inside of the content library, I could add sections, and I could say maybe I have a section called Unit 1. I could have another section called Unit 2. And inside of each of these sections, I could create pages, and I could put different things inside of each of the pages. So if I'm in Unit 1, Lesson 1, maybe I want to share some video links, or I want to share a file with my students, different things like that. So I could actually, so let me just go ahead and I'll throw in something. I could just go ahead and drag a file and I could throw it in there. So like in my own classroom, in the content library, I always share all my PowerPoints with my students, and I'll share like different things that they could print out, or different like supplemental videos that they could watch for the students. So so you'll have that there. So, and the beautiful thing is once you build it once, you have it forever. So you could transfer it to your next year class. So instead of having a file cabinet in your classroom that you can only access when you're at school, you could always have all of your virtual stuff saved in one place and easily access it, and your students. If a student is absent, they know that they can go back to Unit 1, Lesson 1 and download any of the files. All right, so that's pretty much it. Do we have any questions in particular, or does anyone want to see anything that I went over with the class notebook?
We do have one question, Shane. She said that I found a few students who are not in my classes after I created the notebook. I've been trying to remove them, but for some reason I can't. So can you add or remove students from your class notebook?
So that's something that IT would have to do. Or you might, so it depends on, I don't know Charles County's features, but if you click on, so if you're in that Microsoft Team classroom where there are students in there that are not supposed to be, if you click on the little 3 ellipses and you click on Manage Team, you can actually, where it says Members. So I don't have any students in this one, but I'm not sure if it lets you. But if it does, you can kick people out of the team. So you would be able to kind of click over on the right side and kick them out. But I don't know if your IT department actually allows you rights to kick people out. So if you don't see that where it allows you to delete them, I would contact your IT department, and hopefully they can be rapid in getting them out of your class.
Yeah, we got the content. I removed them from the team, but they are still in the notebook. So yeah, something's going on funky.
I think that you can just, so that student that's there, I think you can just right click on the student and delete, like you can delete their notebook.